Airoheart, released September of 2022. Available on all modern platforms. Retailing for $19.99 on most platforms, but is $24.99 on Nintendo Switch. Airoheart is a semi-open world with pseudo-RPG mechanics. That is to say, Airoheart is trying very hard to be a Zelda game. Specifically, the 16-bit incarnation, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. But it's not exactly a one-to-one. Airoheart is much more dialogue-heavy, and gives far more details about our hero, making him much less of a blank slate than Link has ever been. The story begins by letting us know that the kingdom we're currently in is nearly at war with a neighboring kingdom. And our hero is somewhat conflicted in this, as he's of mixed heritage between the two kingdoms. A plot point that surely won't have ramifications later on. Making the tensions between the two kingdoms worse is that the neighboring kingdom is trying to find a set of MacGuffins in your kingdom. And you probably already guessed that what you're going to do is go to a series of dungeons, where you in fact collect those MacGuffins yourself. These dungeons do depart from your standard Zelda dungeons in one key way. Instead of you just finding one item that helps you complete the dungeon, in some of them, you find more than one item. And at the end of the dungeon, when you collect your MacGuffin, you don't always just get more health. Sometimes you're enhanced in some other way. This is how you get the ability to lift rocks, and then bigger rocks. Also, in a departure from the Zelda formula, you have equipment in this game. There are different pieces of armor with different stats and different weapons with different stats. And you'll have to decide what to use. Do you go for the heaviest armor for the best defense? Or do you go for the lighter armor that gives you a bonus to some kind of attack? You can change it whenever you want. So if you find yourself dying too much with one option, you can always try another option. And you'll be dying a lot, as while this does look a lot like Link to the Past, it's considerably harder, though admittedly part of that is the incredibly clunky and imprecise controls, which cannot be adjusted so far as I can tell. And this isn't much of an issue early on, but eventually you start dealing with puzzles in the dungeons that require a level of precision that these controls are just barely capable of. When you're not in dungeons, the world does have many secrets and side activities for you to pursue, and doing some of this can definitely make you have an easier time. However, there's nothing indicating how strong you need to be to do any of it, and sometimes you'll end up finding something where the enemies are just beyond the weapons and items you have available to you. And while you do have a journal of sorts, it doesn't really give you precise locations, so good luck remembering where something that was too hard for you a few dungeons ago was. Also, between every dungeon there tends to be a big dialogue dump. None of it's particularly interesting or relevant. Usually there's just some small detail about what you need to do next buried in there, but the map shows you where the dungeons are and what the order of them is, so you could pretty much go without this dialogue. And I think the idea of a more story-driven Zelda experience is hypothetically interesting. The execution in this case was just not good on that front. So is Airoheart worth your time and money? No, not really. It's a $20, 20-hour experience. And while at the beginning it shows quite a bit of promise, it falls off in execution fairly quickly, as at no point does it reach the heights of any of the Zelda games it's trying so very hard to mimic. And the dialogue that is constantly forced upon you throughout the game is almost completely irrelevant. And about halfway in is when the controls start to show exactly how bad they are, as at that point, the puzzles in the dungeons you're finding require so much precision, and the controls just do not want to cooperate with what you're doing. So no, you don't need to pick up Airoheart. Save that $20, or $25 on Switch. There are many better experiences you could have for that $20. Please do subscribe, comment, like, and tell your friends.